Hello and welcome to our daily learning video. Today's letter is the letter D. Can you say D? If your name has a D, stand up. Fred, your name has a D. If your name has a D, stand up or swim up. If your name has a D, if your name has a D, if your name has a D, stand up. Well, look at all these friends that have the letter D in their name like you, Fred. Well, now that we know what letter D looks like, we're going to decorate the letter D with dots. I put dots all over my letter D. Now, I had stickers, and you can use stickers if you'd like, but I understand everybody doesn't have stickers that look like dots. So you can use a marker and make some dots if you'd like to. So that's what the letter D looks like. That's great for letter recognition. And now we need to learn how to write the letter D for ourselves. So before we write letter D, I want to blow a big bubble for you. I'm going to try to see if I can make it really, really big. Let me try. Oh, wow, that was big. So that's what the letter D looks like. You can blow a bubble too. Just make a number 1 and one big bubble like this. 1 and then one big bubble. That's the big uppercase letter D. Let's see how to do that on our handwriting paper. So make that number 1 and then go back to the top and then blow a big bubble upstairs and downstairs. One big bubble. One big bubble. One big bubble. Let's do one more. One big bubble. Well, let's make the little letter D. Are you ready? Little D looks like this. Make a 1 again, but then make a little bump that goes this way to the left. Can you do that? Now, if you look at this letter D, it looks an awfully lot like another letter, like the letter B, right? So I'm going to tell you how to tell the difference between B and D. I did this on the letter B video, so you can go back and watch that one too if you want to hear more about letter B. But I want to show you that sometimes if you go outside and a bee stings you on your right hand, it makes a bump. And if it's your right hand, it's hard to write. If a bee stings you on your right hand, it's going to be very hard to write your letters. So the B has a bump that goes this way toward the hand that you write with. The D's bump goes the other way, to the left, to the left. Okay, so let me say that again. So if you get stung by a bee on your hand, if it's your right hand, the hand that you write with, then it would be hard to write, wouldn't it? So think about B's bump going towards your right hand. And the other D, and D, the bump for D goes the other way, to the left, to the left. Okay, so let's practice that. So make a number 1 and then make the bump go to the left. That's this way. 1 bump. 1 bump. You try. 1 bump. 1 bump. Okay, that's the little letter D, and you did such a great job with handwriting. I'm going to send you a sticker for handwriting today. Nice job. Okay, now it's time for some phonics. We're going to talk about the sound that letter D makes. Letter D says D, D, D. Can you try to make that sound? D, D, D. Good job. Letter D says D, D, D. It kind of sounds like we're knocking on a door. D, 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 D. So let's play a little game to practice that. You can knock on my door and I'm going to say, come in. And then I'll knock on your door and you can say, come in. Okay, go ahead, knock on my door. What does letter D say? D, 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 D. Come in. Now it's your turn. I'm going to make the D sound and you say, come in. All right, here we go. D, 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 d. Come in. I can come in and play with your toys. Oh, that would be fun. Do you have Legos? I like Legos. You knock on my door again, okay? You ready? What does D say? D, 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 d. Come in. You can come in. We'll play a game with Sue. Okay, now my turn. I'm going to knock on your door. Letter D says, D, 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 D. Come in. I'll be glad to come in. We'll have a snack and we'll play outside. Okay, so that's what letter D sounds like. And now that you know the D sound, I want you to help me blend with D. Do you remember what those vowels are? The vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Good. A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. These are the vowels. Well, I'm going to put a letter D with each of these vowels. And now I want us to try to blend. Are you ready? We know what D says. D, D, D. Do you remember what letter A sounds like? I'll stretch over and get a few props to remind you. Letter A says, ah, like when you're sneezing. You make that sound. You can borrow my handkerchief. What does A say? Ah, like when you're sneezing. Achoo. All right, let's blend. D, ah, da, da. Good job. Da. I think we can put something at the end. Let's try that. If we put another letter D at the end, I wonder what that would spell. Let's try it. This part is da. You just did that one. Da. D. You know what D says? D. Dad. 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 You just read the word dad all by yourself. D-A-D is dad. Well, do you remember what letter E says? E looks like an ear, and E says, eh? What did you say, Sonny? Eh? Let's blend. D, eh, de, de. Good. Well, I stretch. I looks like a lollipop. And what does I say? I says, ew, like an icky, sticky lollipop. Ew. So let's blend. D, ew, d, d. The next one is O, and O has a sore throat and says, what does O say? You do it. O says, open your mouth and say, ah. Let me check your throat. Oh, your throat looks great. And O says what? Ah. So let's blend. D, ah, da, da. Well, what would happen if I put a letter G at the end? G says g, 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 like when you're gulping water. Remember when we had our cups? G, 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 g. All right, so let's blend this together and see what happens. Dog, dog, dog. That word is dog. You just read another word. That's amazing. Well, my friend, you ate too many cupcakes. When we did C is for if you give a cat a cupcake, you ate too many cupcakes and ice creams and donuts and peppermint milkshakes from Chick-fil-A. And now letter U has a tummy ache and U says, uh. So let's blend. D, duh, duh. You did a great job blending and even reading today. Very nice job. That was our letter of the day time. And now we are going to do some math. And let me put our letter back. For math, I have a little surprise for you. I made this. It's a little dog house. And I'm going to show you how to make it too. So you can get this printable at my website. I'll put the link below. And then you can cut it out. And I just glued it to a Kleenex box. You could probably use a Pop-Tart box or any kind of box. And I made a hole for the door. And inside there are some little doggies. So you can cut out the little doggies from the sheet if you want to. I just have, let's see how many doggies. You help me count how many we have living in this doghouse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're going to do subtraction to 5. That means take away. So there are 5 dogs. You just counted them. And one of the dogs decides that he needs to go and take a nap. So he's going to go. We're going to take away 1 and put him in the doghouse. Now how many dogs are left? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 dogs, take away 1 is 4. Well, now we have 4 dogs, but 2 of them are thirsty and they want to go get a drink of water. So 4 take away 2 is how many? 1, 2. Now there are 2 dogs and one of the dogs gets busy chasing a butterfly and he runs away. 2 take away 1 is how many? 1. So I'm going to bring all the dogs back. This one dog is lonely, so he wants his friends to come to the backyard and play too. Okay, so here they are in the backyard. Now I have 5 dogs again. All the dogs are here. And so I'm going to say that, let's see, let's start with 3. 3 of the dogs. 3 of the dogs hear a whistle. And they want to go see who's whistling. So 5 take away 3 is how many? 2. Well, one of the dogs gets stung by a bee and has to go and rest. So 2 take away 1 is 1. And this dog is lonely now and he wants to go find his brothers and sisters. So 1 take away 1 is how many? 0 or none. So do you see how this can be used for subtraction up to 5? Or you could print 2 of these and have 10 dogs and do subtraction up to 10 if you'd like to. Okay, so that was our math time. And now it's time for our shape practice. We're going to look at parallelograms in everyday life. Take a look at this slide. Remember, a parallelogram is like a square or a rectangle that's leaning. And I see a parallelogram right here on the side of this eraser. Look at these buildings. Wow. They are in the shape of parallelograms. Here are some toys that look like parallelograms. And look at these floor tiles. I see parallelograms. I've never noticed this before, but now I'm going to. On the side of the mail truck, there's a parallelogram. A parallelogram is just a rectangle or a square that's leaning. Well, that was our shape practice for today. And now for our music and movement, there's a little song link that I'm going to put below. It's called Want to Whistle. And you can learn how to whistle and listen to that song for your music and movement time today. But right now we're going to head over to the art table and make a cityscape. Let's go. So here we are at the art table. We're going to make a cityscape. So I have a dog printable that you can get a link to on my website. And then I just cut out some black paper in different sizes to look like rectangles. And then I cut out some newspapers to be the little windows. And I'm going to show you one that I already finished. Here it is. So see how all the newspapers made the little windows in the tall buildings? And then I put the doggy in the front. We're going to read a story. It's called Whistle for Willie, and this is Willie, the dog Willie. He looks really big, but the dog in the story is not a giant dog. It's just that Willie is closer up. He's in the foreground. Something that is closer to you looks bigger, and these buildings are in the background. They're far away, so they look smaller. Think about it this way. If you go outside, or actually if you look outside from your window, and if you see a tree that's far away, it looks small. But if you go outside and you walk up to the tree, it's going to look big, isn't it? The objects that are close to you are going to look big, but the ones far away are going to look small. This is the foreground and this is the background. And that's a little art lesson for today. And now I'm going to come over and we're going to read Whistle for Willie. Okay, before we go, let's read Whistle for Willie by Ezra Jack Keats. Oh, how Peter wished he could whistle. He saw a boy playing with his dog. Whenever the boy whistled, the dog ran straight to him. Peter tried and tried to whistle, but he couldn't. So instead, he began to turn himself around and around and around. He whirled faster and faster. When he stopped, everything turned down and up and up and down and all around. He was dizzy, wasn't he? Peter saw his dog Willie coming. Quick as a wink, he hid in an empty carton lying on the sidewalk. Wouldn't it be funny if I whistled? Peter thought. Willie would stop and look all around to see who it was. Peter tried again to whistle, but still he couldn't. So Willie just walked on. Peter got out of the carton and walked home. On the way, he took some colored chalks out of his pocket and he drew a long, long line right up to his door. He stood there and tried to whistle again. He blew till his cheeks were tired, but nothing happened. He went into his house and put on his father's old hat to make himself feel more grown up. He looked into the mirror to practice whistling. Still no whistle. When his mother saw what he was doing, Peter pretended that he was his father. He said, I've come home early today, dear. Is Peter here? His mother answered, Why, no, he's outside with Willie. Well, I'll go look for them, said Peter. First, he walked along a crack in the sidewalk. Then he tried to run away from his shadow. He jumped off his shadow, but when he landed, they were together again. He came to the corner where the carton was, and who should he see but Willie? Peter scrambled under the carton. He blew and blew and blew. Suddenly, out came a real whistle. Willie stopped and looked around to see who it was. It's me, Peter shouted and stood up. Willie raced straight to him. Peter ran home to show his father and mother what he could do. They loved Peter's whistling, and so did Willie. Peter's mother asked him and Willie to go on an errand to the grocery store. He whistled all the way there, and he whistled all the way home. The end. Well, here's that cityscape that we made in art. I hope you get a chance to make one too. And I hope you've had some fun today learning about D is for dogs. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.